Hey, new time for a video, and this time we're actually going to be building a TSL Bogger. This is the 1.7 version, and I'm going to build it today with a CI Deuces Wild. This is the XL TSL tire, and this is actually intended for their 1.9 XL tire, but I'm going to stuff it in this Bogger. And then I'm going to take this 1.7 Bogger and I'm going to put it on our brand new 12-spoke GCM rim, which is also a 1.9. So, kind of a funny conglomeration of stuff going on today, but I want to show you a couple of comparisons because there's some really neat stuff going on with this tire, and I really like the 1.7 Bogger for a couple reasons. The tire it's as soft as a rubber glove. So, this is a really soft tire. It's crazy how soft it is, and so it's really going to benefit from having the CI foam, and the CI foam weighs nothing. I can't describe to you how light these are. I'm pretty sure it's lighter than the factory foam. I didn't weigh it, but this thing weighs nothing, and it's nice and firm, which is really going to help out with this super soft tire. So that's why we're using this combination. And then it's not an uncommon practice to use a 1.7 tire and actually shove a 1.9 rim inside it, and it's not that hard, especially when the tires are this soft. You end up with this really nice looking combo with a nice size of sidewall. It kind of reduces the sidewall on the tire, at least the look. It does stretch the tire out very slightly, but it's not very much, so there's no real problem with that. Now, comparison wise, let's first start off with some comparisons. So this is a 1.9 Rock Beast. This is got a custom GCM pile of foams inside, and I actually don't remember what I put in here, but it's not the stock foam. No. And it's not a CI foam, because at the point I built these I didn't have these. These are off my Class 2 rig from last summer, from the 2014 season. And this tire has lots of wear on it. It's broken in really nicely, it performs really well, and I have pretty high expectations for these 1.7 Boggers on the CI foams. Now, if you see the size comparison, we're basically talking about the same rolling diameter here. So the Pitbull is a little tiny bit wider than this, which is okay. I didn't really need the width on the truck. It was a very small truck, 10.7 wheelbase, so a pretty short truck that this was running on. They looked fantastic. It was on a China two-door Jeep. And I'm thinking the Boggers on this new build ought to do really well. The thinner tire will look better the way that the truck is going to be set up. And you can see that the rolling diameter is basically the same. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the width. It's really close. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to still use a 1.9 wheel because that'll look great on the new build. Very excited. So first of all, we have to somehow get this pretty stiff foam into this pretty squishy tire, and it's not easy. I already built one to show it off, and it's really hard to do. So let me just see if I can't shove this in here. Basically, you have to take the tire and kind of turn the tire inside out just to make it fit in. You don't want to damage the foam, of course, by pulling and pushing on it, and the tire is pretty pliable, so you're going to have to just work with the tire the best you can to try to get it on there. And the nice thing about this is that the foam, I should show you this first, the foam diameter is actually a perfect match for this tire. So when I use a harder foam, I really like the tire to sit just outside the foam like that. You see how the tire is just barely outside the foam, and it's not going to push on the tire. The tire doesn't have any free space behind it. It's a really nice match. Have a look at this. This is super nice. And the other thing I should point out before I shove that in there is that the 1.9 Beadlock ring from the GCM wheels fits in literally an exact match. I mean, have a look at this. Look at how an exact match that is. Literally the foam and the countersink in here in the foam, and the matches exactly with the beadlock ring, so there'll be no foam rubbing in the tire. The tire will lock directly into the ring just perfectly. Look at that. It's so mint. So this is a winning combination right here. Now I'm going to shove this in. and I hope this works. It's difficult. I got the other one in just a couple minutes ago, but wow. The foam is so tough, and the tire doesn't really want to conform. So it's hard, but worth it every minute of this. I encourage you to take this on yourself because the result is going to be worthwhile. Now these CI foams come in all kinds of different ways. You can get them with 2-stage and single stage and closed cell and all this other stuff. They got so much awesomeness going on over there at Crawler Innovations. Link below, by the way, in the video. Check the description box in the video on YouTube because we've got information there on how to link up to these exact parts, and you can see the stuff that we use in this combination. So I'm getting it in, and it's coming, and boy, I'll tell you, this foam really makes this tire come alive. Now the reason I'm going around it like this is because it makes the foam and the tire line up on this size. Okay? The foams, as you know, are lined all the way around, and the tire needs to sit right inside that, directly centered in the foam. And so you can do that easily by just giving it a roll like this, and you can actually hear the foam and the tire working together to come around. So there we go. We've got this set up. I'm really happy about that. You can have a look inside. You see how perfectly that lines up in there. And the gap in the foam right here to set the bead is just in the perfect spot. Perfect. So now we just have to jam in the 1/9 ring for the 12 spoke. All the GCM wheels kind of have the same sort of 4-piece assembly where you've got the locking ring, and then you've got a back ring that jams the tire together. You've got a face, and you've got a wheel rotor. And so with our hex mounted setup now, they just drop right onto any truck you want now. So it's fantastic. You don't have to worry about pin depth and all that. Just use your hex you got. Now I'm going to set up this ring inside so that the ring is lined up with the foam the same way it was before we jammed it all in there. Nicely set up. Now this is where the tricky part is, because you can see this ring on the tire here. That's actually the same size as the base of the rim. See that? So the rim base fits in there, and the actual face of the wheel is bigger than that. You can see it's quite a bit bigger than that on the actual outside ring. So what we're going to do is stretch this on here, and we're just going to shove it in like that. But as you can see, it's not sitting down into the lip. It's below the lip there, so we actually have to pull the tire back over this lip and get this rim to sit down into the tire, into that little lip in the tire. And you can see it there. It just comes right in. As soon as you pull this back a little bit, you can see the little lip there, and it just comes right in. And the rim will drop right down inside there, just perfect. No problem there at all. And there we go, we've got this set up nicely. You don't want to pull it out too far because you don't want to get the bead to come out of the locking ring. So that's a nice setup there. I like how that's gone together. And now we're going to do the exact opposite on the back. We're going to take the back ring here, which is sort of a thicker little bit of a ring, and it's got the screw holes in the back here, you can see there. So we're going to take this and shove it in the back. Try to get the screws lined up as best you can already, and then put this locking ring in the tire, but don't push it down. This is kind of key. So this is the key right here to this assembly when you're stretching tires. Get this pulled out all the way around without pushing the back ring into the tire. Just pull it around and work it until you can get it so it's sitting on in that little lip in the tire. That's the key. And then I'll show you why that's so important in a second. As soon as you got that locked in there like that, look at that, that's great. We're going to work this around a little bit here in a circle just so we can get it all lined up. Make sure you've got it all set up. Now I actually have my screws out of alignment here. You can see the threads and the screw hole are not lined up, so I'm going to actually twist this a little bit and make sure that the screw holes line up before you try to jam the screws in. Don't crank it sideways and then put the screw in, because you'll actually attach the tire in a funny way and it'll wobble. So I'm going to turn this a bit. Give me a second here just to twist that. There, that's better. And then I'm going to go around it again and make sure that the outside ring of the tire and the outside of the locking ring on the back are actually lined up. Now we've got it. See there, you can see straight in the screw holes. Look at that. You can see right in the screw holes. And if you turn it like this and look inside here, in between, there's no black rubber. You see that? All you see is aluminum, aluminum, aluminum. You can see all three components. You can see the screw face inside here with the thread, and then you can see the locking ring inside the collar, inside the wheel, and then you can see this ring here with the screw hole ready to go, and they're all lined up perfectly, and there's no black tire rubber in the way, and that's exactly how you need to get this to this point. Check again on the front face and make sure that while you were doing the back, the front didn't pop out. This is all nice. You see how that tucks right into that? It's a nice fit, really nice fit. And you can also kind of start to get a glimpse of how this tire is going to sit. It's starting to get nice and square. It's fattening out really nice. You've got a little bit of sidewall going on here, but it's still, there's foam right there. There's no spare gap. There's no air gap in here. Now we're going to get these screws lined up here. Let me drop in these big screws. In the GCM rims, you've got a set of long screws, which are for this here. And then you've got a set of shorter screws, which are for the inside of the wheel, where the rotor bolts on. So make sure you use the long screws for the back of the wheel. I'll just get these dropped in here. And like that. And then the screws, you can see here, the screw is actually already touching the thread inside. So if you have this done right, you should be able to literally just put your wrench on that screw and just push it down just the tiniest little bit, and it should go right into the screw, and there you go. So we're locking that in like just nothing, like it's so easy. At this point it's really easy to lock the tire on. So we'll get this one started here. It's hard to hold that. And we'll get this thread lined up here. Just like that. And in we go. Now I'm only screwing these in a little bit. There's still a gap there, and I haven't done all the way around. I've only done a couple screws here, so I'm going to get the rest of these screws started and run them in a couple of turns, and I'll just keep going around here and get these run in. My wrench is just about the same size as the screw head, so it's a little bit difficult to keep it in line with this particular wrench. It's a pretty big 2mm wrench, and the screw heads are for a 2mm wrench, so there's like no space left over. So we're just dropping these screws in, and I'm bringing them down a couple of turns at a time so that we end up with the beadlock coming in nice and even. And keep going around here. Now at this point we've got all the screws in, and there's only a little wee gap left over. You can see that. And in the front you can check again and make sure that in the front the ring is locked right into the tire really nice and even, so the tire is not going to wobble. I'm really happy with how these are going together, and I'm just going to finish these off now. I'll get onto one of these screws and just start cranking them. Now this setup is really tight, so bear in mind that when you're stretching tires and stuff, you're putting a whole bunch of weird pressure on things, and so make sure when you're tightening this up you still go around the outside and get it all nice and even. You don't want to end up binding up the screws and getting them jammed because you've got the beadlock half sideways in there. So go around the outside all the way nice and even, and take your time with it. Get these cranked down, And here we're coming to the bottom here now finally. When you get to the very bottom, it becomes really evident that you've hit bottom because the screws literally stop dead. You just can't turn them anymore, you know, and it seems so obvious. And guys, you don't need to put Loctite on this. I've talked about this in the 1.7 assembly video as well. You don't need to put Loctite on these, because unless you have a whole bunch of vibration or you're doing like 6S on a rock crawler or something, you don't need that. The tire rubber is pushing out on the beadlock all the time. And because it's pushing out, it's keeping pressure on the screws. And then you don't need to worry about that thread locker, because the ring is constantly under pressure. And because of that, the screws will not come out. So you can see here I'm putting them on nice and tight, but they do stop at the bottom. When you get them in, they're done. And now all of our gap is gone inside. See that? So we've actually closed the tire completely, and you've actually created this perfect foamed bogger. There's a lot of nice pressure on here. This is really going to be nice for side hilling. There's some, especially on a class 2 heavier rig, those solid foams are really going to help a lot. And these CI foams won't break down the same way that the soft foam types will. So they should last a good long time. I really like the setup on this. There's just enough squish here for my heavy truck to give this some good tire bite. And thanks again to CI for these fantastic foams and for putting in all the effort to make crawlers better. Yeah, we love high performance crawlers over here. And I really like this new 12-spoke wheel design. I can't wait to get that installed. But as soon as you start getting them on the truck, you can see that the thing just looks amazing. I mean, that's a really nice setup. So I'm very excited to get these on the truck. And now that they're installed, you can see that this rock beast and the bogger are basically a perfect match for each other. You see that? The rolling diameter is essentially the same, and I've got the CI single stage Deuces Wild foam in there. We've got basically the same width now too. You remember at the beginning of the video I showed you that the bogger was a little more narrow than the rock beast, but you see, after we've got the hard foam in there and we've got this thing stretched onto a 1.9, we've basically got the same rolling width here again as well. So they're ready to go. This is a direct replacement as far as rolling size goes to a rock beast, and that means that this 1.7 bogger can be put pretty much on any truck that's running a rock beast, and you're going to have the same type of look and feel, except a whole different type of traction. So really excited to run these. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and check the description box on YouTube so you can find out the links for all these great parts, and we'll talk to you soon.